Good day, everyone. So I'm here to discuss to you um, this subject, laboratory management, MLS 027. So these are your teachers. So your, your first teacher is Mr. Edgardo Monisit Jr., RMT and Master of Public Health. So then Mr. Edgardo is currently an assistant chief medical technologist in one of the hospitals here in Cebu. Then next is Mr. Adonis Vincent Orais, R RMT and certified medtech in ASCPI. So American Society of Clinical Pathology International. So that's the abbreviation of ASCPI. So the next is Mr. Carl Jan Lasaga, RMT. He is currently also a team leader in um, molecular diagnostics in Mandawi City in Philippine Red Cross. So uh, all of us uh, we have had experience in the lab for quite some time. So we are familiar with the processes and ways how to manage the hospital. So especially the course subordinates within the laboratory. Or so next. So these are the topics that we will be discussing to you. So from organization, personnel, equipment, and purchasing and inventory. So these are my topics. So the other topics will be discussed by the other instructor or teachers. So I will just give examples and proceed after. So I'll just give simple meaning or an example in each of the topic. Then I will proceed. So first, organization. So what is organization? So in order for the lab to succeed to its goal and mission and vision, then a laboratory should have an effective organization and hierarchy of responsibilities. So if ever there is an incident inside the laboratory, so you know where to report or whom to report. So next is personnel. So they said that personnel is the greatest assistant in asset, sorry, in the laboratory. So training and retraining for that particular processes in the lab is important. So if you will become an RMT, so upon hiring they will check your resume if you have trainings, especially special trainings like HIV proficiency and drug testing. So those just an example for training. So next is equipment. So a laboratory should have a reliable machinery to accelerate laboratory tests and resulting to patient satisfaction. Then next is purchasing and inventory. So this aspect in the laboratory is important for continuity of the processes inside the laboratory. So like your reagents, supplies, and test kits. So those are um, under purchasing and inventory. So Next is process control. So all as all aspect or section in the laboratory should have a way to check and balance through SOPs. So what is SOPs? So it is the standard operating procedure in the laboratory as a whole. So or there is a SOP as a whole sa lab, then there is also an SOP specifically for each of the um, section of the laboratory. So departmentalized is OPs. That's we call it. So next is information management. So information management and documents and records are just kuan, interrelated with each other. So wherein the documents and records are stored and managed in a system or online. So then the lab should have a formidable anti-hacking system to protect these sensitive documents. The next is occurrence management. So in times of accident or incident happen to the laboratory, a proper steps in handling the incident is readily available. So for example, there is a spill incident. So there you should have this MSDS, so material safety data sheets that should stipulate that particular spill or reagent that spill, then how you treat the spill through this manual. So next is assessment. So this is very useful during accreditation. So because the quality manager or the laboratory staff are reviewing the SOPs, if it's followed religiously, then we can notice this by reviewing the incident report. So if there is incident report, then you will check your SOPs if these SOPs are being followed by the subordinates in the laboratory. The next is process improvement. So SOPs will be reviewed and revised if needed and by the accreditation reviewers request. So during accreditation, they will check your SOPs. Then if there is lacking, then that's the time that you will um, revise the SOPs. The next is customer service. So this aspect in the lab is very crucial to the laboratory because this is what the patient or the customer notices upon entering the lab. So muna ilang first impression sa lab, especially in the phlebotomy area. So since the patient is allowed only in that area, they cannot easily go inside in that area if there is no official suman official reason. Then next is facilities and safety. So laboratory structure should take into consideration since the laboratory contain infectious material or biological material that needs to be secured, like in clinical bacteriology or in ISBB. Then the waste should be properly segregated. Then that laboratory or the hospital should have that third party to collect their waste. So this is not the waste in the hospital in or in the laboratory is not an ordinary waste. nga pwede ra siya ilabay sa ordinary sanitary landfill. So next, before I will proceed, I will just inform you that you have three major activities in this subject to complete. So first activity is katong organizational chart. Then next is your donning and doffing of PPEs. So first activity is by group. Then the second activity is by individual. Then last activity is an interview. It's either video or audio. So you need to interview an laboratory supervisor or pathologist, manager, quality manager, section supervisor, team leader for that laboratory you choose. So then I will just give separate criteria or rubrics for that activity, for that in each activity. So next. So first topic is laboratory organization. So organizational structure. So it establish a working structure that ensures sufficiency in all parts in the laboratory workflow. So it designate responsibilities and roles, develop an organizational chart. So that's your first activity, or the organizational chart. So it designates also a quality manager, then allocate sufficient resources. So quality manager inside the laboratory, it's either chief medical technologist or the pathologist, the head pathologist in the lab. So next is this. This is just an example of a laboratory organization chart. So there are many example in your modules. So this is just an example. So you can check your module for different kinds of organizational charts. So from hospital director down to laboratory director. So this laboratory director is a pathologist, then down to charge technologist. So charge technologist, maybe chief, this is chief medical technologist, then assistant chief medical technologist, then down to section supervisor, then section supervisor, then technologist na in each department. So this is just a simple example for a organizational chart. So never mind these areas, nursing director, nurse, then because we're focusing in this area in the laboratory. So for quality manager, so it is number one requirement for ISO accreditation. So during ISO accreditation or any accreditation, it's whether ISO, your Joint Commission International GCI, or your CLSI, or Trent. So they required quality manager. So as what I've said earlier, your quality manager might be your chief medical technologist or the pathologist, head pathologist in the lab. Then has a responsibility and authority to oversee compliance. So quality manager will check every processes in the lab, if it's correctly followed, and all of the medtech, medical technologies inside the lab are complying and following the standard operating procedure of the laboratory. So quality manager reports directly to the decision making level of the laboratory management. So we will report to where it's either pathologist or the head of the hospital. So quality manager responsibilities. So mo to siya, monitor quality management system. So when all of the medtechs are following the SOPs religiously, so quality will come also. So if they are doing their job and following the SOPs in the laboratory, then wala na tayo question ani. Then next is assurance compliance. So assure compliance, whether accreditation or local governing bodies like DOH or RITM, so Research Institute Tropical Medicine. So na siya yung mga protocols that needs to be followed. Then next is review all records. So review all records. It's either test results, incident reports, that or mga machine breakdowns, things like that. Then next, conduct and coordinate audits. So conduct and coordinate audits. So audits whether if how many tests have been done in the lab or in that particular section in the lab. So pila ang test na come inside in that lab or in that section, and then especially the wastage. So mo na ang number one responsibility sa quality manager. Wastage compared to number of tests number of tests used in that particular section. Then investigate deficiencies. So the quality manager may organize a meeting, usually monthly meeting na siya, to discuss all of the deficiencies in the lab, then stipulates why, and then give solutions, root cause analysis, siya, of that particular incident, root cause analysis unsa may hinungdan sa incident, then why the SOPs are not being followed. More yun na, the laboratory will focus and will revolve in what and will revolve in one sorry na, in that SOPs. So why are every time there is an incident report, then they will question you why you are not following the SOPs. Again, there should be no deviation in the lab because there is SOPs that need to be followed. So laboratory organization standard organization. So these are the organizations, the governing bodies that standardize a laboratory. So I just give two examples: your ISO and the CLSI. ISO stands for Standard Organization for Standardization. So then guidance for quality in manufacturing and service industry. So ISO is not just specifically standardized laboratory. It's standardized also manufacturing service industry. So dili ra lab. So maybe manufacturing company. So like Coca-Cola or like company or mga bars. I don't know if they will standardize the lab the bars. So this muna siya broad applicability. So broad applicability because it is this organization doesn't focus only in the lab. So used by many kinds of organization. So uses consensus process in developing standards. So I think all of the accrediting bodies uses consensus process. So they will look every aspect in the lab or in the hospital as a whole. So during accreditation, then they will look your SOPs, the processes. So especially in the lab, they will look the how you from extraction to testing, then um result result. So testing, no, blood extraction or sample collection, then testing, then result. So muna siya. So they will look quality in those areas. So muna siya. So next is CLSI. So Clinical and Laboratory Standard Institute. So formerly known as NCCLSI. So for National Committee on Clinical Laboratories Science Institute. So muna siya. So it's standard guidelines and best practices in the medical laboratory testing. So this accreditation accreditation organization kay specific for the lab. So this organization cannot accredit standardize a other or industry like your manufacturing industry, unlike your ISO. So detailed applies specifically to medical laboratories. Medical laboratories lang yun siya. So uses consensus process in developing standards, same as your ISO. So same also to GCI or Trend, so or Joint Commission International. So they mara gyud ilang bottom line. So next is leadership. So exercising responsible authority while providing motivation and vision. So you need to take into consideration the sentiments of the people inside the lab. So if you're a leader, you should hear your employees what they need. But dili lang kay you're telling them to work nga dili day sila ganahan, di ba? So na siya kuan. Then influencing and encouraging staff to good performance. So muna si leader. So there are examples also in your module. So there are different kind of leader sad in the module. So Next is personnel. So personnel means laboratory staff. So laboratory's greatest asset. So ang laboratory staff ngano man greatest asset siya. So without laboratory staff, no one will work work in the inside. No one will manipulate the machine in the lab. So critical to quality since they are the kuan man sa hands-on in the hospital. They are the one who perform the test. It's either manually or automated or semi-automated nga kuan. Still the machine needs a person or a laboratory kuan personnel nga mo perform sa machine. So wala pa man ta niabot nga naanay robot sa hospital, diba? Oh, I hope so it will not happen kay if ever wala na jud tay work since push button ra gyud ang lab. So from extraction, then testing, then processing the sample, imo pa na siya spin to to extract the plasma for kuan clinic mostly in clinical chemistry that need plasma or serum. So the sample of choice for clinical chemistry is serum ngano man dili ang plasma because plasma contains katong inyong fibrinogen. Ang fibrin nga maka-plug sa mga um, mga pipeters inside the machine. So should be qualified professionals. So should be an RMT. So if you're not an RMT, some of the laboratory will hire not registered medical technologists, but the their work is limited. So there might be put in the place in the phlebotomy area or in receiving area in the lab. So dili siya perform og test unlike if you are licensed medical technologist. So we are also partners in public health aside from nursing and lab tech. So inside the lab, kay there might be nursing in phlebotomy area. So nowadays they're hiring nurses in phlebotomy area. So muna na atong mga competitors in the lab. So kuanta in the hospital kay na sila kanang ways nga mapaspas ang delivery of samples from the laboratory from the patient room to the laboratory kay ang nurses na ang mo extract of blood samples to their patient. So then the nurses will just extract the blood then give the sample to the laboratory. So dili na compare sa na wherein we are the one who get the blood sample to the patient room. So magwarding ka. So muna na ang current trend sa hospital. So dili na kayo if you are phlebotomist dili na kayo nakahago. So 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 upon hiring, so they will give you this job descriptions. Inside this job description are your stipulated tasks. So unsay mo mga tasks, your departments. So either they will place you in the specialized lab section in the lab like histopathology or clinical microbiology or molecular diagnostics or clinical ISBB or your immunosero blood or blood bank. So mana siya ang mga specialized section. So ana, if you have no experience, they will give your job description will be um generalist. So you are rotating medtech. So you will your job description will be like phlebotomy, or they will you will just retort in this not specialized section in the laboratory, like your koan chemistry, your hematology, your clinical microscopy. Ano siya. So the next after that, they will orient you, orientation. So you will they will orient you inside the laboratory, then know the personnel inside the lab. So they will orient you also in each part of the laboratory. So different sa mga laboratory sections. Then meet and greet sa pathologists or the chief medical technologists and the supervisors. I-orient ka sa mga SOPs. So upon hiring, you need to read the SOPs in the lab. Good. Mo na first thing to do good. So para dili ka mawala sa lab sa mga processes. So each of the laboratory has its own SOP, standard operating procedure. So varies na from one lab to another. Next is training. So after orientation, they will train you. So I think it will last 6 months. Then after training, they will assess you, your competency assessment. If you are well trained after 6 months. So after 6 months, they will you are now regular employee in the hospital. So probationary medtech. Then after assessment, if you pass the assessment, then you are now regular medtech. Then continuing education. So after that, they will give you seminars or specialized training yun. Especially if they decide to place you in the um, specialized labs like your clinical microbiology. Next is performance appraisal. Performance appraisal usually after 1 year. This is yearly appraisal. So they will check your performance. How they will check your performance? So they will check you how many IRs or incident report have you committed in 1 year. So it's either if you have good performance, then they will recommend you for a higher position like supervisor or team leader or assistant chief medical technologist mo na siya or medical technologist na mo. Kaya usually the lab kay paspas kaya ang rotation nowadays because the 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 staff are going abroad. So after 2 years, so lain na sad ang mga supervisors inside the lab usually because after 2 years they will go and find a greener pasture outside the country. So this is what I told you earlier, man. So from job description, you will know your job description, then they will train you, then competency exam. If you fail this competency exam, they will retrain you again until you pass. Next topic is equipment. So I think I will no equipment. So uh what are the benefits? So this equipment management benefits. So it increases safety. So as you can see, this is um biosafety cabinet ninyo. I think in the kuan siya. It's either molecular lab diagnostic or in clinical kuan bacteriology. Mga usually na gamit ang biosafety cabinet. So he is wearing gloves and saan siya? Cover all. But as you can see, what is the wrong with this picture, with this man? So he is not wearing mask and goggles. So mo na iyahang risk. So big no no ha. So you might be unsa ni iyang gi kuan. You might contracted this organism sa imuha since wala kay protection sa imong face. Bisag kuan ni siya ha, bisag biosafety cabinet lang siya. So you should have this protective also in your head. Face shield or goggles, mask, N95 mask, then hairnet, then this hood should cover your head. Then the equipment reduces interruption of services. Kay kuan naman siya. Feed, press the button, prepare the sample, then feed the sample in the machine, then press the button, then you will wait for the result. So the result in the lab, minimum is 2 hours. For immediate results, 1 hour. So muna siya. Your stat means statin. So immediate. So muna siya. Mag-request na ang patient if his or her test will be stat. So man apan kuan sad. Double payment. So double usually if ever, for example, if the price of your potassium test is 50, then it will double be by 50, then it's 100 already. So mo na ang stat sa hospital. Double sad nimo ang price. So for 1 hour testing. So usually ang test kay mo para siya mo 20 minutes, then after 20 minutes imo pa na siyang i-process sa monitor sa machine, then release to the information system in the lab. So direct lang na siya from machine, then the result will be directed to the information system in the hospital. Your hospital information system, HIS. So you will know also the nga stat na siya kay na siya colored indicator that the test is stat. And the machine also you can select for a stat option in the machine na mo na siya i-prioritize nga sample. Next is greater customer satisfaction. Kay dali raman ang testing, dili naman sila mag-wait for pila ka hours. Especially if your machine is doing well. So there is no machine breakdown. So paspas ra jud ang testing. So selecting and acquiring equipment. So equipment should be easy to use. So ah, nga ma magamit ra sa tanan. Then language. Usually our machine are coming from European countries. So usually Dutch. So they will the manufacturer or the engineer will just configure the language to our language or English language. Then next is warranty. So warranty should be together with the equipment upon arriving sa equipment. So warranty na siya, dapat na warranty or kuan pila ka years. Then safety. The equipment should be safe to use. So wala siya dapat mga grounds, usually grounded na siya. Grounded na siya. Then will it fit? So the machine will you need to assess your lab. So what kind of machine that you need. So if your lab is you will know the need of the lab by assessing your number of samples. So kung if ever your sample is lesser, then you need to smaller machine lang that will accommodate your test. So I will end this discussion. I need to pause. Then I will divide this topic into two. This topic into two.